welcome everybody to the Frivolous podcast, episode 16. I'm your host, Jacob. Happy to be back. That's really it. I know I look really tired. If you're watching the video, I might even sound a little tired too. I'm not. My eyes take a while to wake up, and same with my voice. So it's not like I'm not like sleeping or anything. I'm sleeping perfectly fine. My body, I don't know, it's weird. Like, I'm fully awake, but my eyes aren't. So, and neither is my voice, I guess. So that's cool. It's fine. I think I sound cooler though with this. It's a little deeper of a voice. I got a little more like bass in it. So maybe that's gonna sound better on the podcast. So maybe I just have to do this every time I record. I just have to like do it within like an hour and a half of waking up, and then I'll sound a lot cooler. That makes no sense, but okay. We took the 2 week. We're doing the 2 weeks now. So thanks for being patient with me on that. That's the new format going forward. Unless I say anything different, that's what the format's gonna be. So that may not appeal to some of you guys, but it's what appeals to me at the moment. And once like we get into fall time, I was gonna say fall area. Once we get into like October and November, things are gonna get very busy for me, and doing it every week would be very unlikely then anyways. So I think moving to 2 weeks now is good, because even with a 2 week or another week to like plan and like think of topics and stuff, I still don't have a ton to talk about, which is frustrating. I'm gonna talk, obviously. I mean, I'm filming and recording, so obviously we're gonna doing the episode and everything, but it's still super frustrating that like I had that extra time and there's still not a ton for me to talk about, because like I said, there's not much going on. I mean, it's summertime for me, and I'm doing stuff. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm just staying home and like doing nothing all day, but it's still like not super interesting, and it's stuff that I'm pretty sure I've already talked about on here with you guys. So it's like there's no point. But you know, it is what it is, and I'm working through it, and I try to think of like stories and stuff to tell you guys, because obviously there's a lot of stuff that most listeners don't know about me. I mean, most people that listen to this, I would actually guess probably 100% of the people that listen to this know me, or at least know of me. So most of you guys have a good like idea and a good gist of who I am. So, but there's still a lot of stories and stuff that people don't know. I mean, I think a lot of people didn't know about like that bathroom story that I told when Anthony was on, which is still one of my favorite stories ever. And so I like sharing stuff like that, especially when it's like funny. And I try really hard to think about stories too. I feel like I haven't lived like too interesting of a life, so I don't have an insane amount of interesting stories to tell. It's not like I've like, oh yeah, when I was like 17 and I was out until 3 a.m. Like, no, I just didn't do that. Like, that wasn't me. I've always been kind of a homebody, and don't get me wrong, like I'll go out, hang out with friends or whatever, but it's not like I like being home. I like, sleeping. I don't like being out late. Being out late just, I don't know, man. Being out late stresses me out. It's not because like I'm like worried about the amount of sleep I'm gonna get or anything. I just don't trust people, man. I don't know. Like is it paranoia? Is that paranoia? Like, I just like, once it gets to like 12 or 1, I'm just like, all right, let's get home now. We've had our fun, but isn't there a saying nothing good happens past midnight, or is it 2? I don't know. It's something like that. And I mean, like I said, I've been out late like that before. I just stuttered so hard. But it's still, I don't know. It's just like, I don't love it. Like, if I'm home around like 12, anywhere from 12 to 1, I'm like, all right, this is cool. So, I mean, is that just me? Does anybody else feel the same way? Like, anybody like around my age feel the same way? Because I feel like around my age, I mean, I'm 24. I'm getting a little old now, but any like around 24ish, like I feel like a lot of people around my age like to be out, and they like to, stay out late. I mean, whether it's out at bars or clubs or whatever, whatever it is. And then there's me. I'm the opposite. And don't get me wrong, I don't have a ton of friends who do that anyways. I probably have a few friends maybe that do that, like maybe a few friends in my group, but like most of them are the same way. They don't go out super late and go out to like bars and stuff. I've been to bars before, but like out late at a bar was one time, and that was what, like two months ago, I believe it was. I think it was in May, because I had a 3-day weekend. and we went out with some friends. We went bowling, and then they wanted to go to a karaoke bar, and I went with my fiance and we went with our friends, and we just hung out. People drank, and I almost said play games. I mean, there were arcade games, but I set the high score on Pac-Man, or was it Ms. Pac-Man? I think it was Miss Pac-Man. Yeah, I set the high score on that while I was there. No big deal. No big deal or anything. Yeah, you're looking at a champ. Yeah, no, whatever. Game wasn't even made. I wasn't even alive when the game was made and still destroyed it. It's crazy. But yeah, and people saying, which I might have talked about a little bit, but how insane is karaoke, by the way? How insane. They're just like, hey, here's a song that most people probably know. Most people do know them. If you're choosing good karaoke songs, they are well known. And then you're like, I'm just going to sing in front of like 35, 50 random people and just like belt my heart out. And people like vibe with it. I thought it was the weirdest thing. Like, I'd never been to karaoke before. I obviously had seen it on like TV or movies or whatever, like clips or what. I've seen it before. I know what it is. But I was just like, man, the vibe here is like, I mean, it's a cool vibe. Like the amount of people that just don't care. Like I could go up there and just be absolutely awful. But as long as I was like putting forth 100% effort and just enjoying my time, nobody would have cared. Wow, I really can't talk today, which I think is cool. And no, I didn't sing before you even like are wondering. I did not sing. I'm not much of a singer. I don't know why. I have trouble saying my G's in words like sing, so I have to like enunciate them really. I have to like really focus on enunciating them. But I'm not really good at doing that. In front of people. Like I'll sing at home, like if I'm talking to friends, like while I'm playing video games or something. I'll sing like in a party chat, or I'll sing in front of like my fiance. But other than that, dude, no way. It's just so hard. Like my fiance was trying to get me. She was like, you should go up, and I was just like, I'm not gonna do that. Like that does not sound like an interesting. Not interesting is not the right word. It does not sound like a situation that would intrigue me and that I would thrive in. I don't like being up front in front of people. I don't like, I don't like public speaking. It's really funny. It's going to be a super ironic at what I'm about to say, but I do not like being the center of attention or like having a bunch of eyes on me. Like I've been out with friends sometimes and like, with like when I worked in fast food and we would have like crew dinners or whatever. And like I'll be talking or saying something or a story or whatever, and I'll have like the whole crew staring at me, and those are all like friends, right? And we're all like the same age, and like they're not gonna judge me, but like I'll feel pressure in that situation. I'll be like, oh my god, like I'll be like, wait, like why is everybody looking at me? And then I'm like, oh my goodness, I have to deliver on this story or this joke, or this is just gonna be a waste of everybody's time. And it's ironic because I have a podcast and I do a video version where people get to look at me. But this is a controlled environment. That's the biggest thing. That's where the anxiety comes from, is where there's the lack of control. This is a controlled environment. You see what I want you to see. I can set up what you see right now. I can set up what you see when I edit, which I don't really edit very much anyways. So that's why I like this, I would say, even though I still have a hard time talking about it with people, which is... I've talked about it before, but it's such a dumb thing. People are like, oh, you're doing a podcast? Like, how's your podcast going? Or I listen to it. I'm just like, oh, yep. Like, and that's it. I don't know, man. Like, I'm just weird like that. I don't know if I'll ever not be weird, but yeah, that is what it is. Maybe that's something I will outgrow, just the whole, like, lack of confidence thing. Because that's how I am. Like I said, that's just how I am with most things. I mean, I'm not going to go up and sing because I don't want... I don't have that confidence. And here's the thing, even, like, I mean, I'm not a good singer. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I'm good at it. I just don't like doing it. Like, I'm not good at it. And so it's like, I mean, to be fair, most people that went up on karaoke night weren't. There were obviously some exceptions, but I'm not good at it. So it's like, even though I would fit right in, like, with most other people, I was like, I still just don't want to do that. And I don't necessarily feel like I'm doing the best job of my podcast sometimes. I guess I do think it's improved. I mean, I finally have figured out everything that I feel like I really need to figure out. I've got a good system down there. All right, every 2 weeks is now when we're uploading. And then I finally figured out my mic issues for when I have guests on. And then I've got lighting, and I have figured a lot of it out, which is nice. It's just it's hard at this moment. It's just really hard for guests, and it's really hard for like topics to talk about. But once I get those going, then it's going to be a lot better for me. I do have some ideas for guests, and I'm gonna have some guests returning very soon. Which I haven't talked to any of them about that, but I will have guests returning soon as well. It's gonna be like really cool. That's all I'm gonna say. That's all I'm gonna say. But I still have to ask people because like I mentioned last episode, I have troubles like I said, asking people and like having them take time out of their schedules to do this for me because it takes time. I mean, filming. Usually when I have a guest on, filming takes about 2 hours at least. When it's just me, filming takes like an hour or less. But when I have a guest on, it takes about 2 hours just because there's so much that we can talk about. I'm not gonna talk about that too much though. I mentioned it last episode, so I'm not gonna like delve on that too much. But I do have some things in my head. I'm working on things. So that's that. I was gonna talk about this when I was talking about like being out late, but I obviously went onto a different tangent as I normally do because of my ADHD that people think I have. I went to a concert a little over a week ago now. It'll be almost 2 weeks by the time this episode airs. I went to the Machine Gun Kelly concert, which I know some people are like, oh yeah, wow, that's so cool, yeah. But that concert was awesome. It was so cool. He's a really good live performer. Like, first of all, I think he performs really well live. And so that he did a good job, and the whole concert was like a really cool experience. Like the stuff he did with the show, it was really cool, especially compared to when I saw him in, I think it was October or November. We saw him out. He was outside in like it was a smaller venue, I mean, there's still a lot of people there. Like, it was packed, but it was like he couldn't do nearly as much. And then this one, we were in an arena, so he's able to like have all this stuff set up and have it be more extravagant and stuff, and have like props, and it was really cool, honestly. And so that was cool. And Avril Lavigne opened for him, and I mean, if you don't know who Avril Lavigne is, I'm not gonna explain her to you because you should just know. She opened for him, which I was like, all right, that's cool. Avril Lavigne. I knew she had like songs on the radio and stuff. She has a couple singles out, but like, dude, she killed it. Like, I mean, he killed it too. Do not get me wrong, but I expected him to kill it, and not that I expected Avril to not kill it, because it's Avril freaking Lavigne, right? She's been doing this, okay? But man, dude, she annihilated it. Like, the arena was going crazy for her performance because she was playing all the classics. Any classic Avril Lavigne. She played Girlfriend. She played What the Hell. I mean, I can't even. So What? Yeah, no, that's not her. So What's not her. So What's not her at all. That's not her. I was trying to say, I was like, I don't think that's Avril Lavigne. But any like classic Avril Lavigne song that you can. Complicated. Why couldn't I think of that one? Yeah, she played and she killed it and was so good. Like, it hyped. It really like made the concert super hype. Like, when she went on and she performed all those classics, it was like, oh, okay. And then MGK went on and it was like, all right. It was just like the mood was awesome. Willow Smith also opened, but I could barely understand a word she was saying. And I don't know if that's because of the people who were doing her audio. Because the audio for Avril and Machine Gun Kelly was great, but the audio for Willow was just not great. And I don't know if it's because like the type of voice she has, like it's like higher pitched and what, or if it's the way she sings, or if it was just because of how they set up the sound. But it was not good. Like, legitimately, I understood like no words in most of her songs. Which I don't know most of her songs anyways, to be honest with you. But even the songs that I did know, I could barely understand what she was saying. Like, it was just bad. And I think I was, yeah, no offense to her. Like, she seems cool and everything, despite that her family is as dysfunctional as they come. But I just was like, all right, this is cool. Like, can we move on to the next? And she performed like 8 songs, and I was like, dude, let's get it moving. Like Avril, I was like, you could have kept going, girl. But with Willow, I was like, all right, let's you could do 1 or 2 less next time. That would be cool. No offense to her. But like, I don't think anybody could really understand the words she was saying. So that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm gonna say. And I want to talk about that because it's only the second concert I've been to. Both my concerts have been Machine Gun Kelly concerts, which some people may laugh at, but I've really enjoyed them. And I think I've talked about this before. I think I talked about it maybe when Eric was on, but there's just not a lot of artists that I have a desire to see in concert. Machine Gun Kelly is one of my favorite artists, so obviously I've seen him. But like that, he's one of the few artists that like, well, with his new stuff, obviously not with rap, but like I listen to almost all of like from his last 2 albums, I've listened to like every song, and I know like all of them pretty well, and I know most of his singles, if not all of them, that he's released in the past couple of years. But like any other musician that comes here, like it would not be like that for me. It would be like I'd know most of their songs from an album, but then I wouldn't know like some of these. And like Post Malone, for example, I think Post Malone's a great, talented musician. He makes a lot of good songs, but like first of all, I'm not caught up on Post Malone's music, and so second of all, like I don't know a lot of like his non-hits. You know, I know some of them, but like I don't know a lot of like his popular ones still from those albums. So I would have troubles if I went to a Post Malone concert. I'd be like, "Oh, when are you? Was it Rockstar? Yeah, when's Rockstar coming on? Oh, it's a pop star. I'm so dumb. Doesn't matter. Dude, I'm all over the place. I said Avril Lavigne sang So What, and I said Rockstars by Nickelback, dude. I'm so dumb. Anyways, it's whatever. It's fine. I don't care. I do care. I really do. But I'm trying to think of stories, guys. I'm really trying to think of like story. We're just going off on tangents, by the way. There's no like linear progression with my podcast. It's you're bouncing from place to place. If you haven't like figured that out by episode 16, well, you're figuring it out now, and you're a little late to the party. But that's what we do. That's what we do. Oh, okay. I got a story I can tell. And I wasn't like sure if I actually like forgot about the story, to be honest with you, and I'll tell it. And I don't know if I'll tell another story afterwards, but I'll tell this story for sure. I don't remember how old I was, but I think I was probably like 18, 19-ish, around there. I think I was just out of high school. I was hanging out with some friends. No, I don't know if I was out of high school. I don't remember. It doesn't matter. Like I was 18 or 19, and I was hanging out with some friends, and it was like late. I don't know how late it was. Let's just say it was like 11:30. It wasn't super late, but it was dark out and everything. And I was hanging out with one of my friends. His name is Andrew, and another friend, his name's Nolan. And I don't even talk to these people like really anymore. But I don't know what we were doing. I really don't. Like I'm trying to think really hard on it, and I don't know what we were doing. But we were doing something, and then we had to. I think we might have seen a movie or something, and then we were taking Nolan home, and then Andrew and I were gonna go hang out at our friend Brandon's house, who I've mentioned on this podcast before in the Fairview like story where we heard glass crunching in a building. So we were going to do that, and my friend Andrew was driving, and this I really should have been used a little more anonymity because like but it doesn't matter, it's too late. He was, I mean, I can't speak for how he is now, but back then he was a bit, of a reckless person. And I don't know how I've never told this story before. I hope my parents don't get mad. He had this little car. I don't even remember what it was, so don't get mad at it. But it was like an older car, and it was little. And he was we were driving, and he was like trying I don't even know how to describe it. He was like almost trying to drift in a way. Like he wasn't really, but he was like jokingly trying to. And and like we weren't going fast, so don't forget. It's like we were going like 90. We were going like 20 or like 30, which it still could obviously cause injury. And I'm not a reckless person or driver or anything like that. But back then I was like, all right, whatever. This is kind of okay, because like we weren't going fast, so I wasn't too stressed about it. And there was we weren't like on a freeway or anything. We were just like on some back roads or whatever. And so he did it like a couple times. And like I said, I don't even know if it's really drifting. He's just like turning sharp or whatever, really. But it's slick out because it's like winter time, and it had rained. So like the pavement is wet. That is a very important detail to the story. And so he goes. I completely forgot about this story until right now. He goes to drift or turn quickly or whatever, and he does it right. Like his wheel is all the way turned. I was like, all right, but the car still goes. And so the car goes that goes over the curb, which you know how big a curb is. They're not very big. Goes over the curb and just like, and we're not flipping. Don't worry, we're still like all four wheels are on the ground. but all four wheels go over the curb, like the first, or we go right side first. So the right side goes over, and then the left side, and then we're just going, and then we're just like going, and we're like in the midst of trees now. So like we drifted, we bumped up over on the curve, and we just still slid, and then we stopped like right in front of a tree. Oh, that sounds really bad. It's not. It wasn't like we were gonna be wrapped around it. It was like, I mean, there was a good like 10 to 20, no, not 10 feet, like probably 20, 30 feet between the car and the tree. Like it wasn't close. Like the car was going very slow by the time we stopped in front of the tree, so it wasn't like we almost hit the tree at full speed or whatever. And it messed the car up so bad. Like it's not, I don't know if I consider it an accident, because it, like, you know, I mean technically I guess by the rule of the word it is an accident, but like it somehow dented like the side, like one of the passenger side doors, like, which I don't understand. It was either my door or the door behind me, and then because I was in the passenger seat, and then like it messed up like the steering wheel and like the axle and everything. And it was just, I was just like, I can't believe that. In my head, I didn't say this, but in my head I was like, I cannot believe that you just did this. Like that's so dumb. Like that's insane to me. But yeah, that was like one of the dumbest things ever. And I remembered like everybody was fine, by the way. I mean, not that it wasn't serious to at least me and the other person in the car. Obviously to Andrew it was, because he got in trouble with his parents, like in so much trouble, and he didn't get to hang out with our friend Brandon that night because of it. But that's just one of those things that's just like, dude, how dumb are people in general? But how dumb are like 18 and 19-year-old boys? Like I like to think I'm a pretty like level-headed and pretty, you know, smart, not smart, but like I don't do a lot of like dangerous things just because I don't want to put myself in a situation where I could get seriously hurt. But like even then, even like I said, we weren't going fast, and you know, we were the only people on the road like in that area or whatever. It was just like, it's so dumb to do, like so dumb, and just like it's just karma that we ended up, not, I shouldn't say karma, but it's just like, I guess show like, hey, don't be doing this dumb crap, because we ended up like hurting the car or whatever. And it's just the funniest thing, because like, how do you explain that to your parents? Like, hey, I got in this, like the car can't drive that well right now because I was trying to drift with my friends in the car, which is so funny, man. And here's the thing though, I will say this, well, to like give the story a good like moral, not morale, I'm an idiot. Like I was told this once by somebody, I don't remember who, but when I got my license, I was told this. They said, when you know, when you're by yourself in the car, if you want to do dumb stuff, like do it. I mean, it's your car, that's, you know, that's on you at the end of the day, right? But if you're like, if somebody else is in the car with you, that's when you shouldn't do dumb stuff, because it's not just you that you're, you know, that it's not just you, that it doesn't just affect you anymore. It affects somebody else and their life and their family, so on and so forth. So like, obviously don't do dumb stuff in your car in general, but like if you're gonna do stuff like that, like drifting and stuff, like it should be done by yourself, because like if you do flip a car or whatever or get hurt, it's like, all right, well, it only affected me as opposed to now it affected 2-3 other people. But the problem is, people want to show off for their friends, so that's why they're doing it in the first place. Because like, he wouldn't have been doing that if we weren't in the car. Like if we weren't in the car and it was just him, he would not have been doing those drifts or anything like, or again, they're not really drifts, but he wouldn't have been trying to do that, because there's no one that look cool for, you know what I mean? Just so funny, man, how kids are. It's just so funny. Like, it's like, that's such a dumb story, and it's not really even a great story, but I thought I hope some of you guys found that funny, because it's just like the dumbest thing. It's one of the dumbest things ever, and it's so funny to me how like at the time we were like, none of us, like, I don't know if, like I said, I didn't say anything then, but like, why wouldn't I have just been like, hey man, maybe we shouldn't do this because the roads are slick? Like, why wouldn't I have? Because I was thinking that. I remember thinking like, oh man, the roads are kind of slick. I don't know how this is gonna go. And then obviously it didn't go well. I don't know why I wouldn't speak up and be like, hey, the roads are kind of slick. Maybe we shouldn't do this, just to be like, so that your car doesn't get like, you know, doesn't get injured, so your car doesn't like break. But I didn't say that. No, I was just like, all right, cool, whatever. I'm with my friends. Let's just be dumb. Like, it's so stupid, man. I hope you guys enjoyed that story. It's so weird how like you can completely forget a story and then just randomly remember it one day and then remember like a ton of details about it. Like I have legitimately not thought about that or remembered that in probably 4 years. And yeah, it just came to me randomly like while I was doing the podcast, and I obviously decided to talk about it. It's just so funny to me how that works. It's like insane. I wish I had more cool stories. I do have like some other funny stories that I could share, but I kind of want to save those for more solo episodes. I kind of think if I save, make it like do like one story per like solo episode, I think I can eat up some time and make it more interesting as well. Like I said, I don't have the most interesting life, so not necessarily every story is going to be funny. Like, I don't think that story was super funny. I think a lot of people are just going to be like, wow, what idiots. Like, you know what I mean? I'll probably get texts or messages be like, that's like one of the dumbest things I've ever heard that people have done. But that's, that's 18-year-olds for you. That's 18, 19-year-old boys for you. I don't know what else you want from us. So, I mean, that's the same me basically that was going out to Fairview and at like midnight and like exploring and almost getting possessed by a demon. I'm just kidding. I don't think it was a demon, but almost getting like stabbed by some homeless person or whatever. I just said I wasn't going to tell another story, but I'm going to tell another story real quick. And there's going to be a video with it, but it won't be on this. It won't be on like the podcast. That doesn't make sense, but I'll explain. Okay, so as I've mentioned before, I used to work in food. I used to make pizzas I made pizzas for like 4 years. It was like 3 years, then I left for a little bit, then I came back for like almost a year. Made pizzas, made a lot of good friends there, and it was awesome. I mean, the job itself was meh, but I worked with some really great people that I'm still friends with to this day, and like I still hang out with and talk to, and it honestly was the reason that like my fiance and I started dating. So it's like a little bit of a Jim and Pam thing, I'm just kidding. Every like relationship, every like caption on Instagram or TikTok ever. Anyways, there was just one time where I was making pizza, and which is what you do at a pizza place. But to make I'm trying like to describe the pizzas without like saying what type of like where I worked because I don't want people to know. But I was making a pizza, and I had to cut a piece of dough to put on top of another pizza because I was making a stuffed pizza, and it's basically just like a big old calzone. Just if you don't know what it is, it's not stuffed crust. It's like the entire pizza is stuffed. So I was like, all right. So I was cutting down a piece of dough that I could put on top of this pizza to stuff it. And when you do that, you have some dough left over that you just have to throw away. There's nothing you can do with it. We don't reuse it because it wouldn't be good. People would get sick. So you just throw it away, typically. And one day it was just me and a coworker, and her and I were up front, and I always like to mess around, when I worked there, and I would throw stuff like at the walls. There was this big like walkway that to the back. Like it was a big like doorway to the back, but there wasn't a door. It was just like the doorway. I don't know how to describe it, but and so there was this point on the ceiling where it was just where like there's this much wall. There was probably like a foot and a half to 2 feet of just like wall, and then there was the ceiling. And I used to like to throw the old dough at that point on the wall, and sometimes depending on the type of dough, it would stick there, which was really funny to me, and it would make a funny sound. So I would do that, or sometimes it would just be fun to do. And then I would obviously go pick it up and throw it away. I wouldn't just leave it there. I'm not a jerk, but. So this time I was like, all right, I looked at my coworker. I was like, hey, do you want to see something cool? And she was like, you won't do it. And I was like, oh, okay. So I grabbed this piece of dough and I rolled up. And instead of throwing it like normally, like, forward, I decide I'm going to go behind the back. Throw it, and I'm going to hit that spot on the wall. It's a pretty big target. Like it's almost hard to miss, right? And in my head, like literally nothing could go wrong. Like literally nothing. I'm pretty accurate with my behind the back. At least I would like to think so. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna hit this target. So I literally as I'm doing it, as I'm about to throw the dough, and I'm doing the motion to go behind my back. In my head, I'm like, okay, well this is it wasn't super far, but it was a little further than normal. So I was like, I gotta put some power on this because if I don't, I'm not gonna make it at all or whatever. And instead, so I go to put power on it, and instead of hitting that spot on the wall, I shoot that thing like almost straight up, and I hit the ceiling, and the light comes out, and like just this falls, and it's just hanging there. And I'll post it on the Frivolous TikTok. I'll post it on there before the episode goes live, or by the time the episode is live, so that you can see it if you want to check it out. And it's funny looking back. Like, it's really funny looking back, because this was like 5 years ago now. But at the time, it was not funny, because I thought A, that I broke the light, and B, that I was getting fired. Like, that instantly. What happened was that the lights had a cover, basically like a cover on them, and all I did was knock that cover off, and I didn't even like knock it off. It was still hanging from the ceiling, like it was still hanging from the light, because like part of it came out. So it really wasn't that bad, and all I had to do is like get on a step stool or a ladder and just like put it back in and click it back into place. So thankfully, but in the moment, I was like, oh man, and I remember so vividly. So I do it, and my coworker and I, like, after that, her and I just kind of froze. Nobody's in the store, by the way. It's just her and I, and then one of the coworkers in the back, I think he was our assistant manager, and her and I are just like, oh, and then we start laughing. Like, we froze at first, and we're like, oh my god, and then we start laughing. And I remember the assistant manager comes out, and he's one of my good friends, and he walks out, and he's a jokester and everything. He walks out, he looks up at the thing, and he looks at me, and he's like, what did you guys just do? And I was laughing so hard, and thankfully, like I said, it got fixed. Everything was okay. I don't know if the light fixture is good still. I don't know if like the cover is still good. I don't know, but like, it's okay. Like, it's not like I broke it. I think I might have broken a piece off of it potentially, but it ended up going back into place. And funny enough, the assistant manager that was there that said that, he ended up hitting it later on accident. He threw a piece of dough, but this was like months later. He threw a piece of dough trying to have it stick to the wall, and he hit the fixture, and it came down too. So it was just really funny. That poor thing got beat up in the span of a few months. But I think it's still there. I don't know for a fact. I don't work there anymore, but I think it's still there, and it's still holding up. So if you want to see the video for that, it'll be on the Frivolous podcast TikTok. So if you don't want to see it, though, it's okay. But it's one of those things that's really funny to me. I remember this story too, as I was saying that. So like I said, when we would cut certain pieces of dough, some types of dough are stickier than others by design, and so I would throw them at the wall. Like, usually it's in the morning when I'm prepping, and it's just like me and somebody else there. And so I would just throw them at the wall and have them stick to the wall, because it's really funny. I don't know why, but I thought it was really funny. And I remember one time I was like making it, and so I was throwing stuff at the wall. There was like 3 or 4 of them, and I was up front, and I was like, I don't think there was anybody else up front with me. And so I was like, I'm gonna try to throw it and have it stick to the walk-in freezer or the walk-in freezer in the back. So instead of like the wall, which is like, only probably like 5-6 feet away from me, I'm trying to do the freezer, which is like twice as far away. So I was like, all right, I'm just gonna do that. Like, I think that'd be funny, and I just want to see if it can even stick, because it's a different type of material, and I don't think it's gonna stick very well. And so I go to do it, and I do have another coworker there with me. This is important to know. I go to throw it. I remember I go to throw it, and she walks by. Like, she's walking to like the phone, because like the way it worked is like there was up front, and then if you walk to the back, there's the phones right there to the right, and then if you walk like to like 2 or 3 more steps, it's the walk-in freezer where we keep like all the product and stuff. And I don't know if the phone rang or if she needed to go like check something, that was because there's a little like counter there, like a little what's it called? Oh my god, what's it called? It's on a stool. It's shelf. Oh my god, it's a shelf. Holy crap, I'm so dumb. This is the worst episode ever. But so she was going to walk, and she goes to walk by it, and I'm not even joking you. The piece of dough goes right by her face. It goes right by her face. It hits the walk-in, and it just hits the walk-in freezer, and just like it hits it, and then it falls. But it makes not loud, but it makes a little smack sound. And I cried laughing, because it literally if she does it a second sooner, that's hitting her right in the face. And I would have felt really bad. I know I'm laughing, so it doesn't seem like I would have felt really bad, because she's a good friend. But the thought of it hitting her face and the sound it would have made, first of all, would have been hilarious to me. And second of all, I can't stop laughing. I'm so dumb. I'm such a child. She would have had like a red mark, a perfectly red circle on her face from the piece of dough, which would have been hilarious. Oh man. And I just remember her being she was really cool about it. She thought it was hilarious. She was like, I felt the wind from that pass by my face. And I was crying. I was like, what would you have done if that had hit you in the face? She was like, oh, I would have just gone home. I would have had to leave after that. And I was like, you know what? That would have been fair. I would have deserved to have been at the store alone at that point. Oh my God, it's so funny. It's so funny. It's only funny because it didn't like hit her. If it had hit her, it still would have been funny. I will admit. I still think it would have been funny, but it would have been less funny. Unless she would have been okay. Like, I just think it would have hurt a little bit because I threw it hard because I had to, like, make sure it got to the distance and I tried getting it to stick. So it's not like I just, like, lobbed it. I was throwing the heater on that. Oh, man. Just the thought of, like, her getting hit on the cheek and just, like, a perfect... Because they're perfect circles. And we cut them out with, like, a perfectly circular object. So, like, it'd be, like, a perfect red circle on her face. Oh, it would have been so funny. Oh, I'm glad I didn't hit her in the face. But it's just, like, the thought of it is funny. If that makes sense. People are probably gonna think I'm a jerk for laughing at that. But man, that's a funny story, man. I forgot about that too. That really got me good. It really did. Whew. Sorry for giggling like a little kid there, but man, there's some I love those stories that you have. You know, like there's some stories that just like no matter how long it's been since you've told it or thought about it, it will make you laugh no matter what, and that is one of them. And it's the same thing like when I was talking to Anthony in the bathroom story, and I was like crying of laughter then. It's just one of those stories that no matter how many times I tell it or no matter how long it's been, I can't not laugh. It's just hilarious to me. Okay, I'm gonna talk about one thing very quickly, and then we're gonna go into rank up and then be done. But have you guys ever thought about, this is one of the most random thoughts I've ever had, and I didn't just have it now. I had it a while ago, and I wanted to talk about it on the podcast. Have you ever thought about how random birthdays seem when it's not yours? Does that make sense? Like, think about it. Think about your birthday for a second. Like, my birthday is April 14th, and I think, oh, April 14th, that makes sense. That makes sense as a birthday, right? That's like a solid birthday. But then think about like another random day of the year. I mean, every day is somebody's birthday, obviously. Think about like, I don't know, August 3rd. Like what? That's just a normal day for most people, right? That's just a normal day probably if your birthday isn't on August 3rd, to you and me, that's a normal day. It's just a normal day. But that's somebody's birthday. Doesn't that seem weird to you? Does that make sense? That like am I crazy? Like I just think birthdays like unless you like know somebody or like if it's a close friend or your partner or your parents or siblings or whatever or your kids, like unless like you know somebody who has a birthday on that day, it just seems so random. Like, oh yeah, my birthday is February. I don't know. Like my birthday's October 12. It's like that's just a Tuesday. You know what I mean? Like that's just a normal day. It's just so weird to me. But then if somebody would be like, oh, April 14, that's a random birthday. I'd be like, that's like the perfect. That makes sense. That's what a normal birthday is. You know what I mean? Is that like I don't know if it makes sense to anybody, but it's just like so weird to me. Like especially if you get to like I don't know why, but like when you get into like the 30ths for birthdays, that's weird to me. Like that feels wrong. Like somebody's like, yeah, my birthday's May 31st. What? Like really? Like you couldn't have waited until June, huh? Like it's funny because I think like a May 30th or like a 30th or 31st of a month is weirder than like a first. And I don't know why that is. Does that make sense? Please comment if I'm making sense. If like you think the same thing about birthdays. If you think that like it's funny how it's just funny that there's literally a birthday every single day. But like obviously for most of us, most days aren't important. Obviously if it's your birthday, it's important. If it's your mom or dad's or sisters or brothers, whatever, if it's their birthday, it's important. But it's like if you don't know anybody or if you're not close to anybody that has a birthday on that day, it's like all right, it's just a normal day. But like to them, somebody out there, it's like oh, this is a really special day because it's my 21st birthday or whatever. Like I don't know, it's just so weird to think about, and that's just because I view things weirdly and differently. But like I said, please, if you're on YouTube, comment and like tell me if I'm weird for that. Tell me if like you feel the same way or what, or if like you think. Tell me how you feel about birthdays in the 30s. I think that's weird. I just think it's weird. I don't think it should be allowed. I think February gets it right. They only have 28 days. The 30th and 31st aren't needed. 29th, 29. Yeah, could you imagine like somebody be like, yeah, my birthday's April 29. I'm like, what? Like I don't like 29 is just a random number. Isn't that like I sound insane. I sound clinically insane. But I think somebody out there will be, oh, that makes sense. I agree with that. So if you do agree with that, let me know, please, so I don't feel as insane. Okay. Listen up, ladies and gentlemen. We are going into a rank up, and I might have teased at this rank up last week. Or last episode. I think I did. Either way, we're going into the rank up, and this week's rank up is one I'm excited for because I've loved these since I was a kid, and I still enjoy these now. I enjoy going to these type of events. We're doing board games. We're doing a board games rank up, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm excited for it. I like I said, I played board games growing up, and I loved them. Probably much to my family's chagrin because I could probably have always played board games. I just really enjoyed them, and I still really enjoy them. Like I said, I enjoy going to game nights a lot. And as an adult, I've played a lot more board games than I have before. Like there's a lot of board games when I go to these game nights that the people bring that I have literally never played before or never even heard of, and then they're really fun, and so that's been really cool to like experience. Like maybe I don't want to say they're lesser known because they're probably well known, but like not the typical ones that you would think of, and so that's been really cool to like do. Because obviously when you're like a full grown adult, when you're with like 6 other full grown adults, like you don't necessarily want to play like Monopoly or Clue or something. And not that there's anything wrong with those games, and if you are a full grown adult and you have an adult group of friends that plays those games, that's fine. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Like I would be down to play Clue or something. I'm not a huge Monopoly guy, to be honest. I shouldn't talk about it much, so I'm just gonna go into it. I will say again, this is not one that I have made. I have made alterations to it though, because there were a few that I hadn't heard of or I couldn't tell what they were. So I do have some substitutions for those. But I didn't set up the bracket. I didn't put a lot of I proofread it though to make sure that it included all the classics and that it wasn't overpowered on one side. I'll admit the game show bracket was so stacked on that right side, which was unfortunate. But anyways, without further ado, we're gonna go into it, and I'm pretty sure I know 99% of the games on here. And the way it works, if you're not familiar with rank up, if I haven't seen it or played it, obviously in this case it's played it, it's gonna lose. So if I have never played the board game before and it's really good, it's like your favorite, and it goes up against one that I have played, the one that I have played is gonna win by default because I can't put something forward if I don't know anything, if I don't have a personal experience with it, because that's just unfair. You know what I mean? I'm not gonna go off of what the consensus is on it. So our first matchup here is Battleship versus, I believe this game is called Go. It's the one with the black and white like little circles. I don't think I've ever played Go, but Battleship's awesome, so I'm gonna go Battleship anyways. I don't think I've ever played Go. If that's what it's called. It's the one with the black and white little tile things. Somebody out there's like, oh, I know that game. It's really fun, but I don't know what it is. Next matchup we have Settlers of Catan, or Catan, however you want to pronounce it, versus Trouble. Oh wow, that's not. I've played both of these. These are both classics. I don't know, honestly. This is kind of hard. I think I really do like Trouble. I think Trouble's kind of underrated a little bit. But here's the thing. I don't know if I would like it as much now as I did when I was a kid. First of all, I don't remember how to play it. But like as a kid, I loved just pressing the little thing in the middle for the dice. That was such a cool like concept. I like to pop it and then like it rolls the dice for you or whatever. Oh man, I really want to say Trouble. I haven't played Settlers of Catan or Catan. I don't pronounce it. I haven't played that in so long. I haven't played either of these in so long, but I remember I've played more Trouble than I have played the Settlers. I don't know. I'll probably go Settlers of Catan. I'll just go with that. I think if I had to play one now, I'd probably play both now. So I'll go with that just based off of, I don't know. It's good. They're both good. So if you really like Trouble, I'm sorry. I think that's a 50-50 really either way. I think either one could have won that. All right, next up we have Clue versus Risk. Ooh. I'm not a huge fan of either of these games. I don't hate either of them, and I'll play them, but Risk takes forever. Clue's not bad, but like it's not great at the same time. But again, I haven't played Clue in a long time either. Like a lot of these I haven't played in a long time. Like, I don't even really remember how to play Clue. Like to be honest, I don't remember how it works. Like I know you're trying to solve a murder, but I don't know like how you do that. I don't remember how. Risk, I know how it works. It's by rolling dice and you attack countries that your your enemies own or whatever, and you try to conquer the whole world. Basically. I know a lot of people who love Risk, but it just takes so long to play, and I'm not a fan of games that take like 2 to 3 hours to complete. Like I like it when it's like, all right, we can beat this game, we can complete this board game in like an hour or less. Like that's, in my opinion, a good board game. So I'm gonna go with Risk. Despite saying that, I'm gonna go with Risk. I do like Clue, like I do love murder mystery stuff, but I think Risk has a higher replayability than Clue. Like Clue, it's like, to be fair, obviously, you could have a different murderer, but there's only like let's say there's 6 characters. I don't remember how many characters there are, but let's say there's 6. It can only be one of those 6 characters, right? And it can only be one of like the 6 weapons, and it can only be one of like the 10 rooms. You know what I mean? So like obviously there's a different combination for everything, but it's only a finite amount of things you can do. Risk, obviously it's the same thing, but like in a murder mystery, you want there to be more mystery to it, I guess. But like when you're doing it, you're like, all right, there's actually a chance that, I don't know. That's hard, man. I do really like Clue. I'm going to go Clue. I know my fiance's not going to agree with me on that because she does not like Clue at all. But I thought about it. I talked myself into it, I think, a little bit. Risk, if I play it once, I'm good. If I play Clue once, I'll be good too. But like I do like having to figure something out. I think that's a little more fun as opposed to Risk, where it's just like I'm rolling dice and trying to conquer. There is strategy to Risk, which I do like strategy, but I'm just not a fan of it because it's a long game. Oh, okay, so we do have card games in this as well. I forgot to mention that. There's probably a couple of card games in this as well. So we have Uno versus Pictionary. I'm going Uno. I'm not even going to think or explain that. Like, if you disagree with me, I'm sorry, but I think that makes sense. Uno is one of the most classic card. I mean, if you consider it a board game, it's whatever. I mean, it's a card game, but like it's one of the most classic games of all time. And they made so many variations of it. They had Uno Attack. If you ever played Uno Attack, that game was so fun. If you don't know what Uno Attack was, it was like this. There's like this little plastic machine that it came with, and like if you drew a certain card, you would have to press the button on the machine, and the machine could either shoot you out 1 card, or shoot like 2 cards, or it could shoot you out like 8 cards if you got lucky or unlucky. So it was like, you would go like, you don't think you had to do it every turn. I don't remember the rules for it like specifically, but it was just so much fun because like, you would hit it and there's like that stress of like, am I gonna like only add 1 card when I'm only 2 away from winning, or am I gonna add 8 and then be in last place now? So that was really fun. All right, next matchup we have Ticket to Ride, which I've never even heard of, versus Operation. Well, Operation wins by default, and Operation would have won anyways. I really do like Operation a lot. Okay, another card game. We have Cards Against Humanity versus Sorry. Ooh, that's not easy. Okay, here's what I'll say. Growing up, like when I was probably like in high school, I used to love Cards Against Humanity. I thought it was like really funny, and I thought it was like hilarious and awesome. And I still think it's a funny game. Do not get me wrong. I'm not at all like dissing Cards Against Humanity because it's very funny, but you have to play it so moderately. Like you have to play it like once every like 8 months for it to still be fun. You know what I mean? And you can only play it for like an hour or so, or before it gets like old and boring, because like eventually everybody gets kind of tired, and obviously there's those rounds that aren't funny. It's just like, all right, that's not a funny round, or like that's, you know what I mean? So you kind of just pick the worst one, like a bad one. And and once you play the game a lot too, like you start to like know the cards a bit more. You know what I mean? Like you're like, oh, like I got this card, even though you've had it like 6 times before. You know what I mean? So it loses a bit of the comedic value of it. Obviously, if you get some of the expansion packs, and if you're using a bunch of cards you haven't used before, and you're playing it when you haven't played it, and you're only playing like 2 or 3 like rounds of it, or maybe like one, you're playing like a round where everybody is the judge, and then you're playing it once every 8 months or so, then it could be fun. But I just think like the replayability of Cards Against Humanity isn't that high, at least for me anymore. I mean, maybe it is for other people, but it's just not for me. If that makes sense. I'm not dissing the game. Like I do enjoy the game, and I've played it at game nights, and I'm sure I will play it again soon at some point. But it's not like my first option. And as for Sorry, I loved Sorry growing up as a kid, and I actually have played Sorry recently. I played it on Tabletop Simulator. If you don't know what Tabletop Simulator is, it's a video game on Steam on your PlayStation, on your PC, where basically you can play almost any board game you want like on there. Like if you can think of a board game, it's probably on there. Sorry is on there, and I played it with a couple friends, and it was really, really fun. I think Cards Against Humanity should probably win based off of like merit because it's classic, everybody knows it, and it was so unique at the time. You know, there was like apples to apples where it was like the clean version of that, but then you come out with Cards Against Humanity and it's so like crude and like unheard of almost to some of the stuff that they're doing. I really like Sorry, and in my heart I think Sorry should win. I really do. Like Sorry, in my opinion, I would rather play than Cards Against Humanity, at least right now. It really, like I said, it really depends on like the Cards Against Humanity thing. If it's just a regular set, I don't want to play it. But if I can get like some more expansion stuff, then I would probably be more interested. I will go Cards Against Humanity though because I think there's more randomness to it. There's a lot more laughs to it as well. You can have more people play. It was Sorry you can only have 4, but like Cards Against Humanity you could probably have like 10. And like I said, you can get a lot of laughs if you have like multiple expansion packs or whatever. You can have like a bunch of insane cards and stuff too. So Connect 4 versus Candyland. Okay. I do like both of these games a lot. Candyland, where's Dickie Roberts? I'm gonna go Connect 4. I don't think Candyland's bad, but Connect 4 is more fun to me. It's simple, it's quick, and like you can get like 10 games in the span of like 20, not even 20 minutes. Like so, we have Chess versus Mousetrap. Okay, like chess is a board game, yes, but like I don't consider that in this realm of board game. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like these are like family board games that you can play with family or friends and not really, just have fun. Chess you can have fun, but like there's a lot more like strategy and thinking, and it's a lot more, I think, serious. I'm really bad at chess. I don't fully know the strategies and stuff on how to play chess. I know like it kind of blew up when the Queen's Gambit came out. But I'm gonna go Mousetrap. Mousetrap's a classic. I like Mousetrap a lot. And again, that's another game I haven't played in a long time. I wish I could actually play that. I know chess is good, but like chess isn't, to me, doesn't fit with what these type of board games are, if that makes sense. Again, it is a board game, but I'm thinking more like family oriented board games, not that Cards Against Humanity is family, but like ones that you're gonna play and just have fun, like with a group of people, as opposed to like, taking it more serious and like, because obviously you can be a pro chess player. So, all right, we have Battleship versus Settlers of Catan. I'm gonna go. I mean, I don't remember Settlers of Catan too well, so I'm gonna go Battleship. Maybe that's controversial to say. So I'm sorry if you guys really like that game, but I don't remember the Settlers of Catan as much. I remember it a little bit, but and I think it should have won against Trouble. That's why I had it go to the second round, but I don't think it should be over Battleship since I don't remember. If I had played it recently and it was in my brain more vividly, then maybe it would have. But sorry, not sorry. All right, next up we have Clue versus Uno. I'm going Uno. Uno's going to be tough to beat in my opinion. I think Uno's going to be a top dog here. Next matchup we have Operation versus Cards Against Humanity. This is tough too. I liked Operation growing up. I actually had a Shrek Operation growing up, so that was fun. But I think Cards Against Humanity wins again. I was kind of talking crap about it before, but like now that I'm thinking about it, like it really is. I mean, it's one of the most popular card game / board games of like all time. And it is fun, and you got to think about all the laughs that you have with it as well. Like, there's so many good moments, and with the ability for them to have like the expansion packs too, I think that shouldn't be understated because, like, even if like you got used to all the cards in the original pack, you can buy like 2 expansion packs for like $20 or whatever, and then you have a whole new like set of cards that you can play with that you've never seen before, and then the game becomes like almost fresh to you again when you play it later. So I'm gonna go Cards Against Humanity. I was talking crap about it for no reason. It's a solid game. But I do stand by the fact that you shouldn't play it for too long when you play. Like you shouldn't play it for more than like an hour, and you shouldn't play it like every week or whatever, because then you're just gonna get tired of it for sure. Like it shouldn't be your go-to. It should be one that you pull out every now and then when you're unsure what to play, and you're like, oh, we can just play that. We haven't played that in a little bit, because then you're gonna have a good time and good laughs. Connect 4 versus Mousetrap. That's really tough. I'm gonna go Mousetrap. I like Connect 4. Like I said, I like Connect 4, but Mousetrap was just so fun as a kid. Like I remember having so much fun with that. All right, next matchup we have Battleship versus Uno. Listen, it's got to be Uno. I'm sorry, but it's got to be Uno. Like there's no way it's not gonna be Uno there. All right, next up you have Cards Against Humanity versus Mousetrap. That is not easy. It's like Cards Against Humanity is the game that I had a lot of fun with as in high school and like early and like now, but Mousetrap I had a lot of fun with as a kid. So it's like what
what do I go with? You know what I mean? Like, do I go with the nostalgia or do I go with the current? Mousetrap is very well revered. I mean, they're both very well revered, but like if you talk to almost anybody who grew up with Mousetrap, they sing its praises. I'm gonna go That's really hard. This is really tough. Cards Against Humanity. The problem is too, these are such different type of games. Like Cards Against Humanity is for adults, and it's a card game. Mousetrap is like, you know, more like younger oriented. Ah, man, Mousetrap. I'm gonna go with Mousetrap. I don't know if that's controversial. Cards Against Humanity is good, but Mousetrap, like if you played Mousetrap as a kid, you know what I'm talking about. Like you know there's nostalgic with it, just the type of game it was, and it's so unique. Cards Against Humanity, yes, it's unique because it's crude, and we hadn't seen anything crude like that before. But it's very similar to a game like Apples to Apples. Mousetrap is very unique in its own way. It's much different from other type of board games that you play. So that leaves us to the championship round of this side of the bracket, where we have Uno versus Mousetrap. Now listen, this is not hard for me. I'm not gonna like waste a lot of time on this because I've done a lot of explaining on a lot of other stuff on this already. I'm going Uno. I think Uno Mousetrap is a very great game, and that needs to be said. Mousetrap is great, but Uno, you can still play it now. You can play it with 3 people. You can play it with 10 people. You can play. You know what I mean? There's some backstabbing involved. You know, it can get a little ugly sometimes if you keep skipping a friend. You know what I mean? It's such a fun game, and there's variations so you can get different types of decks. And like I said, there was Uno Attack. So I'm gonna go with Uno. I'm going with Uno. Uno is in the championship round. It is on the left side of the bracket. It won. So now we're gonna see what will play it in the championship round. So the first matchup, we have Yahtzee versus Chutes and Ladders. Ooh, I haven't played Chutes and Ladders since I was a kid, and I haven't played Yahtzee in a long time. I remember playing. I think it was like Yahtzee Junior, and it was Toy Story, and I remember playing that a lot as a kid and liking that. Chutes and Ladders are good too. I'm gonna go with Yahtzee. I think the concept of Yahtzee is cool, like having to spin all of having to roll all the same type of dice. I think that's very like interesting. To like if you roll all 6s or whatever, you get a Yahtzee. Like that's super interesting to me. All right, so now we have Guess Who versus Trivial Pursuit. Interesting. This is gonna sound dorky, but I've only played Trivial Pursuit on like as a video game. Like they had a video game, Trivial Pursuit, that I got, and well, it was like part of like other video games for like super cheap, and so I've played that on there, and I've had fun with my friends on the video game version, despite the fact that that game is buggy, and all the other games that it came with were buggy. But I've never played like the actual board game version. I've never owned that. And I really like trivia. Like I'm super into trivia. I like to think that I'm pretty knowledgeable about a lot of stuff. I'm really not, but I really do enjoy trivia. But most of my friends don't enjoy trivia as much as I do. Besides the 2 that I play Trivial Pursuit with. So shout out to Josh and Brandon. And Guess Who is a classic as well. I mean, that's a good one as well. I mean, that's a lot of fun. So I've never played the board game version of Trivial Pursuit, just the video game version, which sounds so dumb to say. But like, I think more people would be interested in playing Guess Who than Trivial Pursuit, because trivia isn't for everybody, and which is fine. That's understandable. Like I said, I really enjoy it, but I would say if I brought this out at like a game night, most of my friends wouldn't care to play it, if that makes sense. And maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm underestimating it, but I'm gonna go with Guess Who here. And if you're a strong Trivial Pursuit fan, I'm sorry. Like I said, I do enjoy playing it, but I just got to think about like what would be more likely to be played or brought out at a game night setting. Okay, so next matchup we have Skip Bo versus Monopoly. I have played Skip Bo. I don't really remember it, but I have played it. But it's versus Monopoly. I mean, that's literally a tycoon. So you're losing to that. Sorry, Monopoly's winning. All right, next we have interesting. We have Checkers versus Hungry Hungry Hippos. That's interesting. I'm gonna go Hungry Hungry Hippos, even though I never would have considered that a board game really. I guess it is technically, but I'm gonna go with it because I don't consider Checkers. Checkers is not the type of board game that I'm talking about here. Again, it is a board game by definition, but it's with chess where it's like I'm thinking more of like, you know, ones that you're gonna play with a group of people. So we'll go Hungry Hungry Hippos for that. But that being said, checkers is awesome. Like I know how to play checkers, and I actually do enjoy playing checkers when I don't play it like ever, but like I used to like have like an app where I would play checkers and it would be fun. So I'm not saying that I dislike checkers or anything, or chess for that matter, even though I'm really bad at chess. It's just not what I'm looking for in this type of thing. Okay, so next up we have Jenga. Jenga versus I can't talk. I'm gonna go with Jenga. I've never played I can't say that word. Why can't I say that word? But Jenga's awesome. Like, Jenga is such a weird concept to me. Like, the thought of, like, all right, you're gonna make this tower, and then you're gonna take stuff off the tower, and then somehow it's gonna stay up, and then you have to put it back on. But if you take it off and it falls down, you lose. Like, it's a messy game, and it can be kind of loud. But as a kid, man, the stress that you get, like, it's like defusing a bomb almost. You're just like, your hand's shaking, and you're going to grab. You're like feeling around with, trying to figure out which one doesn't have all like the weight on it. So like, you're trying to see which one's a little bit loose so you can get it out. Man, there's a lot of strategy involved in that. And they also have like Mega Jenga that you'll see that, like, I've seen like videos on like TikTok and stuff where people are playing that at like bars or something, which is really cool to me. All right, so our next matchup is, we have Twister versus Boggle. This is a weird matchup. Is Twister a board game? I mean, technically, I guess it is. I'm not a huge Twister guy, though. I'm not a huge fan of Twister. It is classic, do not get me wrong, but like, it's just, you get all up in people's business, you know. You gotta twist, obviously. You get uncomfortable with, you know, you're all, like I said, you're all up in people's grill. You're twisting around. You're probably breaking your back or tearing an ACL. Boggle's a weird one. Boggle's the one where you have to like spell the words out, right? Like, you'll like randomly roll the dice or whatever, and then you have to like spell words from it. I really like Boggle, but I think in a game night type of setting, Twister would win. So, or Twister would be more likely to be played than Boggle. I don't know. I'd be like, let's play Boggle. So we'll go Twister. I'm down for some Twister. Like, I'm like I said, I'm personally not a fan of Twister, but I can see why it'd be more likely to be played than Boggle. So, all right, next up we have Hi-Ho Cherry-O versus Scrabble. I've literally never heard of Hi-Ho Cherry-O. So Scrabble's gonna win. Scrabble is a classic. It's, again, I don't dislike Scrabble, but it's a slow game, and B, it's, you know, it's not one that gets you hype or gets you laughing too hard or anything like that. I do really like games that get you like laughing and having a good time. All right, next matchup is Apples to Apples, which I've mentioned a few times on here, versus the Game of Life. It's the Game of Life. Apples to Apples is a fun game. It's great, and it's a lot of fun, but Game of Life has to win. Like, the Game of Life is one of my favorites, and it's just such a classic. I love the Game of Life. It's literally one of my favorite board games of all time. All right, next up we have Yahtzee versus Guess Who. We're going to go... I'm not a huge fan of either of these, to be honest. I'm going to go with Yahtzee. I'll just go with that. Next up, we have Monopoly versus Hungry Hungry Hippos. That's Monopoly, easy. Next up, we have Jenga versus Twister. We're going Jenga. Sorry, Twister fans, but I just don't love it that much. And then after that, we have Scrabble versus Game of Life. Game of Life. I think we can kind of already see what the matchup is going to be here. We have Yahtzee versus Monopoly. Monopoly, easy. And now we have Jenga versus Game of Life. Game of Life, easy. So now we have Monopoly versus the Game of Life. All right. The winner of this one will play Uno in the grand finale of the rank up bracket. So this is to go to the championship game. Now, this is actually very tough. I think a lot of people would just say Monopoly based off of the, you know, it's iconic. It's when you think of board games, Monopoly is more than likely, if it's not the first game you think of, it's like the second or third. It's right up there. You know, it's a classic game. There's obviously a million different variations of it, which I think is really cool that they do. You know, you can get, like, if you can think of it, you can probably get a version of Monopoly of it. Like, they have, like, I know they have Fortnite Monopoly. They have, like, Rick and Morty Monopoly. They have SpongeBob Monopoly. You know what I mean? They have so many different versions of it, which I think is really cool and really fun. But and then obviously you have the Game of Life. The Game of Life is a lot more random, in my opinion. Obviously, Monopoly is random, as, you know, you're not going to get the same properties necessarily every time. But, you know, Game of Life, you can have a different career every time. You could have a bunch of kids or no kids, or, you know what I mean? And you can go down a completely different life path. So there's very interesting, like, dynamics with these two games. You know, Game of Life, each game you play can be a lot more different than the last game you played. Monopoly, if you play it a decent amount, you'll probably have a similar strategy going into it, where it's like, all right, I know that I need to try to get these, and I know, like, once I start getting like two of a color, I have to try to get all three to get the houses on it, and to make it so people have to pay me money. I want to choose Monopoly because it's like I said, it's like the most classic board game to me. But my problem with Monopoly, well, I have a couple, is that the games take so long. Like a Monopoly game can take either like an hour or 4. There's almost no in between, it seems like. And second, that it can get so toxic. I mean, again, I've played Monopoly on video games with my friends because, you know, if you live far away from your friends, you can't really play board games with them in real life. So we've played, like, Monopoly is one of them. And we've had, first of all, games take, like, 2 hours. And we haven't, like, fought. Do not get me wrong. Like, we've never, like, yelled at each other. But we've had, like, disagreements and, like getting mad at each other over, like, trades or not accepting trades or whatnot. Or, like, sometimes you'll get toxic. Like, if we have a friend, and he listens to the podcast, so that if we landed on one of his properties, and it's actually really funny. Like, it may sound like toxic or jerky, but he's doing it in a joking way. But he'll be like, "Give me my money," as we land on his thing and have to pay him the money, the mortgage or the rent or whatever. And it's like funny at first, but then when you keep playing the game and you're like close to bankruptcy and you keep landing on his properties, you're just like, oh, you're like, shut up. It's really funny. So I don't love the length of the games, and I don't love the how it can, you know, it can be a little toxic sometimes depending on how it goes. But then you have the game of life, and I really enjoy the game of life. I wish honestly that there was like I could play the game of life with my friends on video games too, so that I could play it more often. So that being said, I am going to go, this may be controversial, this may be an upset, but I'm going to go with the game of life. I just personally would rather play the game of life than Monopoly. It's going to end quicker, and it's more fun because you can kind of like, you know, have this character that you can have live a life and live a happy life or a sad life if you want, and like live out his dreams or their dreams or whatever. So I think it's cool. It's a really cool concept for a game. So that brings us to the championship bracket where we have Uno versus the game of life. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't have to think about this one. As much as I love one of these games, in my opinion, is superior and trumps the other. And I think Uno should win. I think Uno is arguably it's arguably one of the greatest games, you know, board games, card games that's ever been made. And it's just such a good game. It's simple, it's quick, it can be fun. There can be strategy involved, obviously. You can play it as a team. You can play like if you have 4 people, you can play 2 versus 2. Like there's so many different ways you can play. There's different rules and everything. I think Uno should win. If you disagree, you can let me know in the comments on YouTube. But I think Uno is a great choice. It's such a solid game. I mean, you can't go wrong with Uno. And I don't think Game of Life, you know, trumps Uno. As much as I like Game of Life, and the fact that it beat Monopoly may be upsetting to some of you guys, but I think, you know, Game of Life beating Monopoly was like, they used all their energy on that because there was no way they were going to beat the powerhouse that Uno is. But that's it, everybody. We're going to end the episode there. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. I cannot talk today. This episode ended up being actually like longer than I anticipated, which is cool. That's fine. I mean, obviously that works out, but I expected it to be shorter, which is fine that it's not. Yeah, thank you guys for tuning in. I will be back in 2 weeks. If you want to follow the TikTok, you can see that funny clip that I talked about earlier. You can follow it. It's at Frivolous Pod. If you're listening to this and you want to subscribe to the YouTube, you can go to the YouTube. It's just the Frivolous Podcast. Everything's linked below. Whether you're listening or watching it, everything's linked below. So if you're listening, the YouTube and the TikTok is linked below. If you're watching the YouTube or if you're watching the, you know, Spotify and the TikTok and all that is linked below. Yeah, so that's it. That's it for me, guys. I'm wishing you guys good mental health. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Enjoy your summer. Enjoy your August, because it's August when you're listening to this, which is crazy. So enjoy that. I'll see you guys then. Peace.